Hey guys, we are back. Tournament season's back, and the pros are at Toledo Bend. So our last video was about how I find spots before I talk about the areas and why I think they're fishing there. So this is going to be more focused on just skipping that process and showing you the areas these guys were fishing. We'll talk a little bit about why they were fishing there and how they were fishing there. So if you're watching this video, you've probably seen the flood of videos about forward-facing sonar in the pros early this season, and everybody's opinion on it. We're not talking about that. We are talking about the areas these guys are fishing for these early pre-spawn winter bass, where these bass are hanging out, what they're doing, and as you see in this image, how they're using their forward-facing sonar. What exactly are they looking at as they present their bait to these fish? So we'll talk a little bit about how these guys are finding these areas quickly, and then, like I said, how they're using their forward-facing sonar. And we're going to talk about specifically Robert G., who ended up in 4th place with over 90 pounds. I want to focus on him instead of the top 3 anglers, because Robert, he performed very well, 90 pounds, just over 100 to win it, so he was close. But he did something a little bit different. He didn't just stick to the main lake areas. He went somewhere else, and we're going to show you that spot and talk about how he performed so well while kind of getting out of the honey hole, so to speak, and still perform very well by finding his own fish out there. So stay tuned. We're going to cover all that coming up. Robert's out in open water, no timber around, at least not in this immediate area, and he's targeting this fish that you see right here on your screen. And I'll kind of narrate over how he's targeting that fish. So let's play the video. So here he's dropping his bait down to the fish, and you see the fish is going down, and it's turned up now, following. And he's slowly bringing his bait up, making it follow. But really what he's doing here, and I'll pause it, is look at where his boat is. As that wind blows this way, it's blowing his boat. He's not spot locked. He's letting it drift because that fish is coming towards him. And if he's reeling and bringing that fish towards the boat, he's going to run out of time, right? So this is I call it a big brain technique. And that is releasing your spot lock if he even had it on. Now he can trail that bait to his boat by not reeling it in. And he's almost drifting that bait, right? So that fish is following the bait but not getting closer to the boat. And this is again, kind of a big brain technique. A lot of people aren't going to think about this, do this, and they're going to bring that fish up to the boat, and it's going to get spooked and take off, and they'll miss their shot. So let's pay attention to how he's doing that, and watch some more of the video. So see, he's just drifting his bait with his boat, and another fish comes into view. This one's still kind of following. If he was holding his boat in place, he would already have his bait to his boat. So he's giving himself more time with this fish. Now, what he's hoping is this fish joins in and gets a little competitive, and that'll trigger one of them to bite. So he reeled in, reintroduces bait coming down here. Now we've got 2 together. Much more likely one of them's going to get competitive and bite. So right as he drops it down to it, one of them picks it up. So individual fish by themselves is going to be more difficult to get to bite. Once they're grouped up, they get competitive. One of them thinks the other one's going to get it, and bam, they got it. So, but the key there is why these guys are pros, right? He's got it spot locked, targeting fish or poking around with his live sonar. He sees one. He knows his cast is upwind towards this fish, and as he starts bringing it in, he realizes I can let my boat drift away, keep my bait away from my boat, and still moving away from that fish, and that's partly why these guys are just so good at what they do. So a lot of anglers in this tournament spent their time on stuff similar to this, quite a few in this exact area along this stretch. So this is Hog Pen Branch for reference. So we are out here The deepest main river channel is here. And then you have it pop up from, it's about 70-ish feet in that main river channel, up to 50s and then 40s here. And by looking at, watching the highlights of the tournament, I saw on their sonar, most guys fishing were in that 35, 40-foot range. So they're going to be around here where they're live scoping for their fish. And what they see is a lot of bait schooled up in this area, and areas like this isn't the only spot, and an active feeding bass, a lot of very big ones, even though it's cold temperatures, basically still wintertime. Generally speaking, what I'm seeing is the biggest fish are going to be living out here most of the wintertime and pushing up and in here and then moving back out to here, possibly ending up back in here by the time the spawn hits. But they don't want to travel that far, right? They want to come up onto the shallow flat and then pull off into the timber here to feed on bait. So these guys are using that side scan, using that down imaging to go over these areas. Once they see bait, then they can stop with their live sonar, start looking in these trees, and I'll show you next for an example of Robert G catching a large fish out of the top of a tree, and you'll see all the bait and stuff that's around there when he does. But before I play this video, we've got Robert out here on some main lake stuff, and this is what he's seeing on his sonar. So he's already, pre-fished these areas, found out that there's bait in them, found out that there's fish in this timber. And then once you found that spot, that area of the lake, then you can go live sonar from tree to tree, scanning, just bouncing around on your trolling motor. And so right here, we have a large fish on the top of this tree, and these are bait clouds down here at the bottom. Here's one, here's some more, here's another one. So a lot of bait in the area. This fish is not very close to that bait. It's sitting high above the bait, but you can see we have good target separation from this main trunk of the tree. And right when I start to play this, the main thing you got to look for in these to identify, is that a limb, is that a fish, is looking for movement of that target. So we've got good target separation. It looks obvious it's a fish. It's not always obvious. So right when I play this, look for movement in that fish as it gets closer and goes through that limb. Right there, it closes the distance, and he drops his bait down to it. So you can see that fish moving around in the top of that tree. That's the main thing you want to look for, is that movement. If that fish is hugged tight to the tree and not moving, it's difficult to find them.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Stay on, baby. Stay on. Stay hooked up. Boom! Let's freaking go, baby! Let's freaking go. 1/8 ounce jig head.
What I found interesting about Robert G's areas is that although most of the pros here were out in this main lake stuff, let me zoom out a little bit. Even around here, winner the tournament was around this point off in the deeper water, targeting those individual open water fish. Robert not only used this open main lake water, he also came back in here in the bayou branch. He went all the way back to where it chokes up here. You can see this creek channel coming in here. And right here, you can see the water is still 30 feet deep. And this is where he caught, I believe, 3 of his keepers. So this goes to show you don't have to follow the crowd, right? You can find these fish on side scan, find the bait, find the fish all the way back in these major creek arms. There's still deep enough water out there. All these fish that are going to spawn or live back here are just going to suck back into these creeks and stay in this deeper water. And like I said, it's 30 feet. It's definitely deep enough. And they won't necessarily pull out this way. They'll pull out this way, just a lateral movement to deeper water close by. And they're back there ready to pull up when it warms up. It's finding a spot with life in it. And That's kind of a common saying, finding an area with life, birds, busting fish on the top, obvious signs like that. We're going to talk about using your side scan to cover a lot of water, idling around the lake, finding areas before you drop your trolling motor and start looking around with live sonar if you have it, or just start fishing an area. So this image here on the left is an area that has some good stuff, some big cement blocks here. It's probably a cement block, some kind of dock section that's sunk. Obviously a boat over here. Looks like a ditch running through here and a tire. So it's got a lot of stuff in there, but there's nothing else going on, right? There's no obvious fish. And the big thing we're looking at is, or looking for, is bait. So nothing going on here. This image on the right, you have a large school of bait fish. It's going to look like a cloud, sometimes more defined like this, sometimes more hazy, but bait fish is going to look like a deformed cloud. And then you've got some bigger fish, predator fish that are feeding on them. These are not always going to be that obvious, but the bait is. From small, tiny clouds to giant clouds that just fill up the whole screen. You're just going to have to idle around and find those areas before you start fishing. So you want to find high percentage areas that have this bait in there. The bait is what the bass live on. They're going to be close by. And so if you're going to be fishing with your live sonar, specifically targeting these fish in and around these bait balls, that's what you got to find. And they're easy to find, just a matter of putting in the time and idling around.
So goodbye for us. You have to say it, baby.